Penn Falls Railroad has a wide variety of locomotives and rolling stock that help keep goods and passengers moving. And some of our most reliable workhorses come from the T1 family of locomotives. In this short history lesson, we will explore the history of 3 locomotives of the T1 type from 3 separate railroads. Our first T1 comes from the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway. These T1s were ordered from Lima Locomotive Works in 1930 by the C&O's Advisory Mechanical Committee. They were the railroad's first taste of superpower steam. These engines were of the Texas wheel type, 210-4, a larger version of the earlier Berkshire 284 locomotive. Berkshires, named for the mountains they were built to conquer, were the first superpower steam locomotives. They, like the C&O T1s that came after them, used a 4-wheel, booster-equipped trailing truck to support our larger, heavier firebox to increase steam production. "40 C&O T1 engines were built, all for heavy freight use. They could be found hauling long manifest freights and 160-car coal drags across the C&O's western network, replacing the railroad's H7 2882s on the coal drags. Little was changed on the locomotive besides an increase in boiler pressure PSI to slightly increase tractive effort. After their introduction, the C&O would only order superpower-type steam engines due to the T1's success. The design was so successful that the Pennsylvania Railroad would emulate it with their J1 class to help meet the demands of the Second World War. With some minor mechanical changes and major cosmetic changes, the PRR would build 125 of these 210-4 locomotives. Unfortunately, none of the C&O T1s would survive, and all were withdrawn by 1952 and scrapped in 1953. Despite the C&O being a coal-hauling railroad that hoped to continue with steam, they were won over by the economics of diesel locomotives. Despite saving and donating other locomotive types, including many of the railroad's own Berkshire-type locomotives, no C&O T1s exist today. However, one C&O Berkshire, number 2716, is being restored to running condition in Kentucky. The Pennsylvania Railroad's T1 was an entirely different beast. Sleek and elegant, they were styled by industrial designer Raymond Loewy and built by Baldwin Locomotive Works. Their 4-4-4-4 wheel arrangement was part of the Penzies' experiments with duplex locomotives. Unlike articulated engines like Union Pacific's Big Boy, duplex engines had a rigid frame. The 2 sets of cylinders were a way of reducing some of the mechanical problems of reciprocating locomotives with long wheelbases. After receiving 2 trial T1s in 1942, the Pennsylvania Railroad would eventually receive 50 more between 1945 and 1946. Used for passenger and mail trains, the T1s showed they could handle heavy trains at high speed. Unfortunately, there were complications with the design. The locomotives used a different kind of valve gear that required more maintenance. They also developed a reputation for slipping at high speeds, though how credible these claims were is debatable. Unfortunately, these teething troubles and the advent of diesel technology mean that these T1s would not have long operational lifetimes. By 1953, they had all been withdrawn from service, and by 1956, they had all been scrapped. Though no original Pennsylvania Railroad T1s were preserved, there may still be one in the future. An organization called the T1 Trust hopes to complete the build of number 5550, a new T1 from the original blueprints. Their work is currently ongoing, but we hope they will be successful. Our final T1 has the longest history of the group. The Reading Railroad's T1s started out as a part of their I-10 280 consolidations, built by Baldwin between 1923 and 1925. During World War II, the railroad was looking at ways to upgrade their fleet to deal with longer, heavier trains. One initiative was to rebuild 30 of their 50 280s into something bigger. Rebuilt in the Reading's own shops between 1945 and 1947, these 280s would get new tenders, longer boilers, larger driving wheels, an extra set of pilot wheels, and a 4-wheel trailing truck under the firebox to become the Reading's 484 T1s. The first 20 examples were built for freight service, while the last 10 were built for both passenger and freight work. However, they would rarely be used for passenger trains, instead more often working with their sisters on long coal trains or heavy freights. By 1956, steam locomotives had been replaced by diesels on the Reading Railroad. However, some T1s would get a second lease on life. The Reading's Iron Horse Rambles would pull 4 T1s from storage for 50 excursions from 1959 to 1964. After the Rambles, all 4 would be preserved. One engine, number 2101, would have the honor of helping pull the American Freedom Train in 1976 to celebrate the nation's bicentennial. Number 2101 would later pull the Chessie Steam Specials before being permanently retired and cosmetically restored due to damage from a roundhouse fire. It can be seen at the B&O Museum in Baltimore, while her sister, number 2124, can be seen at Steamtown in Scranton, PA. The other 2 locomotives, numbers 2100 and 2102, are both being restored to operating condition. In Ohio, number 2100's work is being done by the American Steam Railroad Preservation Association. In Pennsylvania, 2102 is nearly complete thanks to the Reading, Blue Mountain, and Northern Railroad's ongoing effort. We hope you have enjoyed this video. In the description below, we have included links to places where you can learn more about these railroads and their locomotives. If you'd like to see more content like this from the Penn Falls Railroad, follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube page. Thanks for watching.